to show you here is how to construct the abstract hand drawing that we're doing next. So the first thing you're going to do is trace your hand on one side of your paper. You don't want it over to the edge or down by the bottom. You want it kind of in the middle, off to the side. And you want to try to take your time as you're tracing. I'm using a white colored pencil for this so that it shows up on the video better, but you guys should be using a regular graphite pencil for this. Okay, so we got that side. And then on this side, if you want to just use another hand, you can do that. If you'd like to do a hand gesture, an appropriate hand gesture, that is fine too. It can't be loser, it can't be the loser L or anything vulgar or inappropriate. Okay. So then the next thing you're going to do after you have your hands drawn is you're going to draw 3 lines across the paper. You don't want them to be straight up and down, you want them to be angled. And they don't need to be parallel, but you don't want them to cross over each other either. And then 2 more lines that go the length of the paper. And again, you don't want them to be straight across, and you don't want them to intersect. Although if these intersect, it's not quite as bad. Alright, so you have 5 lines so far. And then the next thing you're going to do is take a compass. And all the compasses in the classroom have pencils in them. Please do not take the pencils out of the compasses. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to add a few curved lines. You don't have to add a whole circle, just a couple arched lines. You kind of want to look for sections that are bigger, that maybe need to be split in 2 a little bit. Okay, so I've got 2 curved lines, and then I'm done drawing. So what are we going to do with it now? Well, we're going to apply those value gradations that we learned the other day. And we talked a lot about when we do value gradations that it changes, the value changes slowly, smoothly. You can't see sections. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add the element of contrast. So there's 2 rules you have to follow. One rule is that each section, and this is a section that doesn't have any lines crossing through it, each section has to have some type of value gradation. It has to go from light, which would be heavy white pencil, to dark, which would be light white pencil. It can go from a medium dark to a very light. It can go from a medium to a very dark. And when we talk about dark, we're talking about the black paper. But rule 2 is that where sections are side by side like this, there has to be a contrast between the 2 sides. And when I say contrast, I mean that there has to be a visible difference in value on each side. So if this side is very light and you've pressed really hard and it's all white, this side has to be a medium to a dark. So I want you to see this one that I've already started with. Spin that around. So you can see where I drew the lines, but you can no longer see the lines. And the reason that you can no longer see the lines is when I'm shading, I'm going right up to that line and making it nice and crisp. You'll also notice that the pencil lines are not obvious. that the values blend gradually. Sometimes they, it's darker over here, kind of lighter in the center. And that's okay. You can go back and forth between values as you need to. There's nothing that says you can't. You just have to make sure that you've got nice, smooth changes in value and that there's always contrast. So this is what I mean by contrast. Here's light. This is very bright white. And then over here is a dark, medium dark. Now the same values can touch on a corner like this, but when they're side by side, like here on this line, you've got dark to light. So down here I've got dark to light opposite. So there's, on these two, I have the lighter areas in the center, and then it's darker on the outside. And that's okay. There's still a gradation in there. So it's going to be easier for you to start at one corner and move your way across, because then you've just got the next row to work with. If you start in the center, you've kind of got everything to work on all at the same time. So as you're shading, you want to make sure that you're blending really nicely and taking your time. Pay close attention to how hard you're pressing with your pencil, and that if you need to, you can move your pen or your paper around. And so I'm going to make this over here. Right, so you've got to make sure that you've always got that contrast. If you mess up and you go, "Oh, that really needs to be, I pressed too hard there and I need to lift up some of that." An eraser will help you some. It won't completely undo it, but it will take care of it enough to add some value, or change the value, I should say. So then you go on to the next section. Down here it's very bright white, and so actually I'm going to make that a medium value. If there's a very small section, I'm okay with that being all one value, because sometimes it's kind of difficult. But like this can be a medium dark. So I'm barely pressing down on the paper. Now notice I'm still taking the time to make sure my values are consistent. I'm not doing this, that doesn't look good. If you do the whole project like that, you're going to end up going, why did I spend all this time working on something that doesn't look any good? Take your time. Make sure your values are nice and even. Make sure you're coloring in consistently. I hate the word coloring, but make sure that your pencil strokes are consistent. It's not about getting it done fast. It's about spending time and producing a quality piece of artwork that you can be proud of.